Okay. You guys ready? Ready? Cell phones? Cell phones on silent? Especially you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're ready to begin tonight's City of Gardena City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2019. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Madam Mayor, all council members are present with the exception of Councilmember Cascanian, who is excused.
Okay, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, do we have anything to report from closed session?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight it will be led by Leonardo Rosales and Henry Corrado. Immediately following that will be led an invocation tonight by Councilmember Rodney Tanaka. So at this time, if everyone can please stand, and if our two pledgers can come forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Henry Corrado,
My name is Leonardo Rosales, and
we are representing the
Amestoy
STEAM Academy.
We
We
are
are
honored to lead you
in the flag salute.
Can you
And
please
please stand up.
place your right hand over your heart?
Face
the
the flag.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please continue standing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Shall we pray? Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to come here tonight and to just see what our city does and what our city leaders have in store for us and make wise decisions based upon the things that we know. Father, we thank you for all those veterans that we just celebrated that sacrificed their lives to protect ours and to keep our freedoms. Father, we just thank you for our young people that come here, that are future leaders that come and see what government is all about, and hopefully they would want to follow in our footsteps. Father, we just thank you for everything that you bestow upon us, everything that you give us in the way of your grace and your mercy. And Father, allow us to make wise and wonderful decisions at this council meeting. And God bless those that have lost people in their families. Be with them. And we just thank you again for your son's name, we pray. Amen.
You may be seated. If I could have our two pledgers come back to the front, please. Leonardo and Henry, come on back to the front. So tonight's Pledge of Allegiance was led by Leonardo Rosales, who is in the 5th grade, and Henry Corrado, who is in the 4th grade. Both are students at Amestoy Multilingual, Multicultural Magnetic School, and the principal is Miss Priscilla Curry. Both Leonardo, Leo, and Henry were chosen because they're exemplary young men and excellent students. They volunteer to come and feel honored to represent their school tonight. Leo is in Miss Lillard's 5th grade class, and Henry is in Miss Guerrero's 4th grade class. So, Leonardo, we're going to begin with you. Can you tell us who came here with you tonight?
My parents and my brother came with me.
Where are they at? I want to stand up or raise your hand, or everyone give them a round of applause for bringing them out. Thank you. You can see it. I see it. Leonardo, is there anything you'd like to say?
Thank you for inviting me here to say the pledge. I'm honored.
Okay, thank you. Henry, can you tell us who brought you tonight?
My grandma, my mom, and my little sister.
Where are they at? Right there. Give them a round of applause, please. And Henry, would you like to say anything?
Yes, thank you for everybody who's here. Thank you for letting us being here.
Okay, well, thank you both. You guys did an awesome job leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you guys for being good students and for always volunteering. So with that, we hope to see you guys come back again in the future. So everyone give them one more round of applause. Okay, you can take your seats now. I'd just like to give a special thank you to Councilmember Tanaka for leading us in the invocation tonight. It's always a great thing to have a minister on the city council here. So thank you for that. Give him a round of applause, please. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to our presentations. As you know, it's our custom to recognize a veteran at all of our city council meetings. And tonight, it was Councilmember Dan Medina's, his turn to choose a veteran. And would you like to say a couple of words before I read his bio?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm very proud to say that we have tons of veterans in the city of Gardena, and not all of them have been acknowledged. And I'm very proud to acknowledge Gary Cobbin for his military service that he served as an infantryman. And I was a medic, and we relied strictly on all the infantrymen to protect us whenever there was any firefights or any situation where we had to meet the enemy. And my hat's off to Gary Cobbin. Thank you for your service.
So, Mr. Cobbin, if you can come forward as I read your bio, and Councilmember Medina, if you could please step down and present him with the coin. His bio reads as follows. Gary W. Cobbin is 62 years old, and he and his wife, Vicky, are longtime residents of Gardena. His military service includes Cobbin's military service in the United States Army has been from 1976 to the present. While on active duty, he served in Bell, California, San Bernardino, California, Fort Lewis, Washington, and of notable service, he was assigned to and gave military support overseas during Operation Iraqi Freedom, serving in imminent danger in Iraq. Cobbin's primary specialty was infantryman with the rank of Sergeant E5. His present service is with the U.S. Army National Guard. His awards include the following. For Army Sergeant Gary Cobbin's exemplary military service, he was awarded the following. The National Defense Service Medal, Second Award, Iraq Campaign Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Armed Forces Research Medal and Bronze M device, Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development Ribbon, the Army Service Ribbon, the Overseas Service Bar, and the Combat Infantry Badge. So along with the coin that Councilmember Medina is getting ready to present to him, his picture will also be displayed on the corner of Redondo Beach Boulevard and Western as a way of letting the entire city know that we're proud of our veterans and we just want to honor you. This coin that he's receiving also was one that was specifically designed for this award. So the only way you can get this award is if you accept it here from us. So congratulations on that. Thank you for your service. Please.
All right, thank you. I gratefully appreciate that. First of all, I want, my first and foremost, I thank God first. He's the center of my life. And I want to also thank my wife of 30 years for supporting me during my military service, and my mother, which enrolled me enlisted me into the military when I was 16 years old.
Oh.
I used to bug the heck out of her because my father was in the military. He's an Army vet. My uncle was one of my role models. And I also want to thank you guys today, the city council members, Mayor Sasha Cerner, and especially thanks to Dan Medina for acknowledging me today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, thank you. You may take your seat now. Okay, so next on our agenda here, we have a legislative update, which is going to be presented by the Honorable State Senator Stephen Bradford, who is our California Senate representative. Give him a round of applause when he comes up. He's doing a big job.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. It's always an honor to be
Steve.
back in Gardena, where I've resided now for 50 years, and always good to be back in this chamber where I served for 12 years as a member of City Council. I have made it a habit since leaving this council 10 years ago to come back before the communities in which I represent, both as a member of the California State Assembly and now as a State Senate, and provide you with a legislative update. And I'll be real brief, but for those who are unaware, our legislative year is from January to September. And we have a 2-year legislative cycle. We just completed the first year of the 2-year cycle. And our legislative year ended on September 13th, and the governor had another 30 days to sign all measures on that were on his desk, and here we've concluded the year officially on October 13th after we reached midnight, the bill signing deadline. But I'm here today to give you a quick overview on some of the accomplishments that we achieved, both as a state and the individual measures that I personally authored. I authored 21 bills this year, 14 of which made it to the governor's desk, 11 which garnered his signature. And I'll just quickly go over some of the state accomplishments. We passed landmark housing legislation that prevent rent gouging and unnecessary evictions, and created a state partnership with the cities and counties to provide ongoing sources of funding for affordable housing, remove roadblocks for new construction, ban landlords from discriminating against people who receive Section 8 vouchers, and makes it easier to build accessory dwelling units for low-income and working families. And this is critically important because we know the housing crisis, not only in the South Bay, but throughout the state of California. And I'll just amplify the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit. It doesn't allow you to construct a new structure, but if you have a garage, a already existing structure, you can convert that garage now into accessory dwelling unit. And much of what we put in this legislation, I have to commend the city of Gardena. As a resident for 50 years, it mimics much of what you have in your rent mediation procedures right now in the state of California. So the city should be commended for the work that you've done over, 40 years that we've had this rent mediation board here in Gardena. Also, wildfire prevention and response. As you know, we're dealing with wildfires all throughout the state of California, and we just made sure that the state and utilities, we manage the cost so it's not passed on the ratepayers as it was. So we're going to make sure that the utilities harden their infrastructure to prevent these wildfires, and making sure that they have defensible spaces to limit the amount of fire damage that is being caused, but also hold corporate executives responsible if they're negligent in maintaining their infrastructure. This year, we made the biggest investment in the state of California in public education, both K through 12 and our UC and CSUs. No tuition hikes. We've made a $50 million investment in mental health. As you well know, many of our schools do not have nurses on campus, so this investment, even though it's small, $50 million, when you look at the state of 40 million people, but it's more money than we had placed in this area in a while. We also have a $15 billion bond that will be on the ballot next year that's going to help us increase literacy by improving libraries, laboratories, and classroom improvements throughout the state of California. And just real quick, prevent racial discrimination in workplace and schools, reduce food insecurity. As you well know, many of our students go to school hungry. And I have 5 colleges in my Senate district. All of them have food pantries. Not only K through 12 that go to school hungry, but you have college students who go to school hungry on a daily basis. Passing bond and responsible budget. We passed a responsible budget. We have a $19 billion reserve, the highest in California's history. We passed a $220 billion budget overall. Now let me just quickly talk to the 14 measures that we got to the governor's desk, or speak more specifically to the 11 that he signed. I authored SB 155, which clarifies existing requirements to help the state achieve existing renewable and zero carbon goals, making sure that we say we're buying renewable energy, we actually purchase renewable energy, and making sure that those entities out there who now want to provide electric service live up to their responsibility of buying renewable power and not renewable energy credits, which many of them do and pass it on as renewable energy. The landmark legislation for me this year was SB 206, the Fair Pay to Play Act. And many people said, why was that so important? But it changes college sports. And people say, well, it's just dealing with sports. But no, it dealt with the exploitation of athletes, both male and female, for over 60 years in this country. And we passed landmark legislation that now states that a student athlete owns their name, likeness, and image. Athletes are the only one who are not allowed to own their name, likeness, and image when you're on scholarship. If you're on scholarship and you have a music scholarship, you can write a song and you can monetize that. If you're a computer science major and you're on scholarship and you develop an app like Zuckerberg did while he was in college, you can monetize that. But if you're an athlete and you want to teach swimming lessons, you cannot do that. If you're a football player and you want to run a football camp, you cannot do that. So it had been modern day slavery. NC2A made $1.2 billion last year. Most every Division I coach is a multimillionaire who's allowed to enter into their own negotiations and contracts and endorsement deals. We say the time has come to allow athletes to do that. So that was SB 206. SB 255 adapts existing energy supplier diversity initiatives. It's something that's been in place in California for about 40 years, but now with the advent of renewable energy, we want to make sure that those renewable companies are contracting with women-owned, minority-owned, and disabled veteran-owned businesses. So we want to level the playing field. Right now, a spend by utilities now is close to $12 billion with women-owned, minority-owned, and disabled veteran-owned businesses, and we hope it only increases now by adding those two categories as well. SB 269 extends the period of someone who was wrongfully convicted and exonerated in order to receive compensation. Currently, before this bill passed, you had only 2 years from the time you were exonerated to seek compensation for a wrongful conviction. The bill now allows someone up to 10 years to seek that restitution, and that restitution only amounts to $140 a day. So imagine if you just spent 1 day in prison or something that you didn't do, you should be entitled to that $140. So it gives that individual now up to 10 years to seek compensation for that. SB 322 allows workers to speak freely and privately in the hospital setting. Prior to this piece of legislation, if you were a nurse or a nurse's aide or any hospital employee or working in a medical facility and you witnessed a violation, you could not necessarily go and report that violation without a certain individual being in the room at the time. Now, you can report it to the Department of Public Health and ensure work safety, whistleblower protection, and also patient safety. So I think it's a monumental piece of legislation. SB 455 is the Financial Empowerment Fund administered by the Department of Business Oversight. We collect millions of dollars each year from online lenders, check cashing facilities, title loan companies, all the bad guys that get the bad reputation for the triple-digit interest rates. And we collect that money and we were doing nothing with it. So this bill now allows us to allow nonprofits to get $1 million a year to provide financial literacy and to provide microloans to small businesses or individuals without having to deal with those companies. And it's over 400 nonprofit organizations based in Gardena alone and in the surrounding areas. So imagine the impact it's going to have on this population and this community. SB 519 authorizes our State Water Resources Control Board to let cleanup subcontractors subcontract with our replenishment district to help clean up contaminated water areas. And it was a convoluted process. Now they can deal directly with the subcontractors themselves and get these water reservoirs cleaned up with the replenishment district. Real quick, SB 534, it just reinstates the supplier diversity and codifies the Government Board of Diversity Surveys for the insurance industry. Just like I was talking about a few minutes ago for the utility industry, we have created a supplier diversity for small businesses, women-owned, minority-owned, and disabled veterans to contract with insurance agencies or insurance companies that do $100 million with the state of California. They are now obligated to contract once again with these small minority-owned businesses here in California. So again, creates economic growth and opportunity. And it just simply expands upon what's common sense. Quickly, I've got two more left. SB 595 requires a fee waiver and deferral for those individuals who are looking to enter the cannabis space. And as I've had this discussion all across the state of California, Prop 64 passed in 2016. Regardless of what you feel about it, cannabis is legal, and we want to make sure that it's run in the correct way. So we're trying to make sure that, again, people of color who are being impacted greatly by the war on drugs have an opportunity to enter this space. So we have a fee waiver and deferral program for all those who qualify and allows them to enter this space. And I just want to share with you, a lot of times when you think about cannabis, you think about two things, growing and a dispensary. But it's 17 other licenses that are needed in this industry. One that's clearly been ignored is testing laboratories. We don't have enough in California. From seed to sale, everything has to be tested. So I'm encouraging folks, open up a testing laboratory. It's millions of dollars to be made because it all has to be tested. We all want product safety, whether it's for medicinal use or adult recreation use. You want to know what you're putting in your body is safe. So that's vitally important. And also, when you talk about the medicinal product, it has to be made somewhere. We're encouraging folks, commercial kitchens. There is a product, it's an edible product. There's teas, there's oils, there's all kind of salves. It has to be manufactured somewhere. So we're talking about manufacturing, packaging, marketing, and advertising. So it's going to help remove some of those barriers. And last but not least is SB 676, which lowers, helps with the electric grid. We're encouraging people to buy electric cars, but we don't have the infrastructure. I see the city of Gardena now has charging stations right there outside City Hall. We want to make sure that we have the load capacity as we install those charging stations. We want to make sure that they don't impact rates and we have adequate load supply to serve the growing numbers of cars, or Californians who are now purchasing electric cars. And I'll just end real quick with just 3 budget acquisitions that I was able to achieve. Again, $30 million to help folks enter this cannabis space. Again, especially communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs. $7.5 million for Charles Drew University, which is just east of here, that produces more doctors and lawyers, minority doctors and lawyers than any medical school in the country. This is for recruitment and expanding and reaching out to folks in this community and make sure that they want to be a nurse, they want to be a doctor, they know about Charles Drew University. And $5 million for community-based organizations to help improve rehabilitation programs from the CDR, and $1 million to help foster youth recover or pay for higher education costs and become mental health service providers. That was a year quickly. I know you guys have a full agenda, but just thank you for the opportunity to come before you and briefly share what we have done and what I achieved this year. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. No questions.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for that informative report, legislative report.
And I would just piggyback, and I appreciate we're still working on our gaming issue that is vitally important here to the city of Gardena.
Absolutely.
And so I'm happy to work with you, Madam Mayor, when you were in Sacramento a couple months ago. And that's an issue of great importance to the city of Gardena and the state of California as a whole. So thank you.
And while we have you here, Stacey, and I want to thank you for your help when I went to Sacramento. It's great having a friend in Sacramento, especially on important issues like dealing with our casino. So thank you again for your assistance with that.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right. Okay. If, I see our pledges just left, but same thing with our veterans. If you would like to leave, you're welcome to stay the entire meeting, but if you'd like to leave, you're welcome to do that as well, too. It's a long meeting tonight, so. Next, we have a proclamation for our 2019 Small Business Saturday. November 30th, 2019, the City of Gardena has always celebrated and supported our local small business and acknowledged the contributions they make towards the local economy and community. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 30.2 million small businesses in America, which represent 99.7% of all businesses in the U.S. who have employees. Small businesses have been responsible for 65.9% of net new jobs created from the year 2000 to 2017. Reports show that U.S. consumers agree that small businesses contribute positively by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue. And consumers also agree that small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of the United States. So the City of Gardena acknowledges that our local businesses create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. There are advocacy groups, including the Women Impacting Public Policy, which is also known as WIP, as well as other public and private organizations across the country who annually endorse the Saturday after Thanksgiving Day as Small Business Saturday. So in support of this annual observance, the City of Gardena is hereby pleased to proclaim Saturday, November 30th, 2019 as the 2019 Small Business Saturday and urge Gardena citizens as well as citizens in communities across this nation to support their local small business and merchants, not only on Small Business Saturday, but throughout the entire year. So next, item number 4C, appointments. Does any member of the council have any appointments to be made to any commissions, committees, councils, or board at this time? If not, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Does any member of the council have any items that they wish to discuss separately? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is?
So moved. Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Okay. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, just something of note here. The next item, Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. The November 5th, 2019 meeting was canceled. So we're going to move on to oral communications, and we have several speakers here tonight. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, you have 4 speakers
Four
under
speakers, I'm sorry.
for
That's
oral communications.
That's for a different item. I'm used to my Mayor Pro Tem right here handing these to me. Okay, the first one is Wanda Love. And I'd like to remind all of our speakers that you are limited to 3 minutes. When the red light comes on, that will alert, I'm sorry, when the yellow light comes on, that will alert you that your 2 minutes are up. When the red light comes on, that will alert you that your 3 minutes are up. And unless extended by myself, but I appreciate at that time if you could just wrap it up. So go ahead, Ms. Love.
Good evening, council members and staff. My name is Wanda Love. I am the Executive Director of the Gardena Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm coming before you guys tonight because back in March, the Chamber entered into an MOU that was presented to us by the city. And I worked very hard with Spencer De La Cruz, and prior to Spencer, we worked very hard with Joe Cruz to work this MOU out between the city and the chamber. And I thought we had some things established. However, I was sent an invitation to a grand opening, and in the MOU, it stated that the city would not do grand openings. I was sent an invitation to a grand opening that's being hosted by the city for the hotel. And I just wanted to come before the council and just kind of ask for some clarification on that. And
Okay, so what will happen is the city manager will follow back up with you because oral communications is just the opportunity for you to talk about any item that's not on the agenda.
Correct.
But this isn't the time for like a
Right.
a response at this time. So we'll just ask if he can follow back up at a later time.
Thank you.
Or it'll be within this week. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Patricia Evans. Is Ms. Evans here? I'm sorry, Patricia Espinosa, my apology. And after that, it's going to be Cheryl Sherman and Wendy Lee.
I thought there was 2 of us. That's
Sorry.
okay.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Patricia Espinoza. I'm from Grandeza Mexicana Folk Ballet Company. We are a nonprofit performing arts organization that has been in Gardena for 16 years. We participated in the Keep Gardena Beautiful Day, wherein we met Council Medina. He graciously invited us to come down and invite the council to our concert on November 30th at the Luckman Theater at Cal State LA. After many years of hard work, the theater and a rigorous application process, they are presenting our concert. So we're very proud, and I hope you're proud that we do represent the city of Gardena. And it's a combination of theater, ballet, and Mexican folk dance. I have some flyers.
Okay, thank you. You can just hand that to Becky here, and she'll pass it out to us. Okay, next is Cheryl Sherman. And then after that will be Wendy Lee.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Cheryl Sherman, Vice President of Friends of Gardena Willows Wetland Preserve. And this evening, I would like to invite and tell everyone that this coming Saturday, November the 16th, will be our restoration work day at the preserve. And we have lots and lots of work that needs to be done before we're into the winter rainy season. And I'd like to encourage everyone to come out and give us a helping hand. It's from 8 to 11 a.m. And if you can't work the full time, any amount of time that you can give us is greatly appreciated. I have flyers in the back of the room, and there's flyers also available at the Mamie Deer Library, City Hall, and Nakoka Center. And I'd also like to mention that we have our we have our ongoing fundraiser at the Food for Less and Ralph's grocery stores, where you can purchase your groceries, and by becoming a member of the Ralph's and Food for Less donation charity team and selecting the Friends of Gardena Willows as your charity, they will give to us a percentage of your purchase. So it costs you nothing to donate to us, and in turn, they give to us as a participation in giving back to the community. So basically, it's a tax write-off for them. But we enjoy receiving their check every month from your participation. And if you'd like further information on that, you can go to our website, www.gardenawillows.org. O-R-G. Thank you so much, and enjoy your upcoming weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Next, can we get Wendy Lee?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I would like to share with you some upcoming events at the Gardena Mamie Deer Library. Tomorrow, November 13th at 6 p.m., you are invited to a free smart gardening workshop where you can learn the basics of backyard composting, water-wise gardening, grass cycling, and edible gardening. Next Tuesday, on November 19th at 6:30 p.m., there'll be a pastry demonstration where you can learn to make a heavenly scrumptious egg tart. Sounds delicious. It'll be a perfect program for you if you need a new inspiration for a Thanksgiving dessert that's not a pumpkin pie. And lastly, on December 10th at 6:30 p.m., join us for a relaxing hour of holiday music performed by a professional harpist and flutist. So thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we're going to move on to our departmental items. First item up is item number 8A1. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, Agenda Item 8A1 is a resolution number 6420, opting for the City of Gardena to be included in a prospective 2020 revenue measure to fund critical fire protection and emergency services should the Consolidated Fire Protection District of Los Angeles County and the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors decide to pursue such a measure. Since contracting with the fire district from 2000 to 2018, the number of total incidents in the city has increased by 40%. Staff recommends that the City Council approves Resolution Number 6420 for the city to be included in the prospective 2020 measure, which will fund critical fire protection and emergency services. This is basically a property partial tax, and the fire district estimates the potential revenue to be anywhere between 2.4 million to 3.6, depending on the tax levy formulation, which is roughly around 6 cents to 9 cents per square foot. Fiscal year 1920, the City of Gardena adopted the fire and emergency services budget is 8.4 million. To meet election deadlines, the city must advise the fire district of their desire to opt in the ballot measure no later than November 12, 2019. The cost of the ballot measure would be borne by the fire district. It is recommended that the City Council authorize the city manager to issue a written notice and a copy of the proposed resolution to the fire district that the city has determined to allow voters to decide on this important funding measure. There is no fiscal impact at this time. What is required is adopt Resolution 6420. We have our Fire Chief Hale with us this evening to answer any questions. Chief.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Thank you for having me. If there's any questions, gladly answer them if I can.
Okay, which way do you want to start? Start here with Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for showing up. In regards to the measure, if the measure does not pass, does Gardena still have to pay their portion of the expansion, or how does that work?
Yes, the contract will stay as it is currently, and that if there's extensive spending and upgrading of infrastructure and/or our Communication X package, that does get transferred down to each city's contract. So yes, that will continue.
More questions? Okay. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Medina.
Yeah, can you let us know what cities are participating and which are not, and why?
So as of right now, we have 11 fee-for-service cities, and of the 11, 10 are opting in. The city of Palos Verdes Estates is not, and I believe that's because they have other infrastructure and budgetary needs that they need to handle. So this would not help them in that endeavor.
Plus all the horses and all that other stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. Is the cost for residents only, or does it apply to the businesses as well?
It's both. It's going to be anywhere from 6 cents to 8.9 cents per improved dwelling. So not property, but dwelling. So if you have 1,000 square foot home, that's what's the measure is going to go against. That's about $89 a year.
Okay. Any other questions?
I guess I have a quick one. So why is the county doing this measure now, and why in March?
We're looking at doing the measure now, and we're still in investigative phase, if you will. But they're looking at March and/or November. But if we go to the March polling and voting, then we're able to capture some of that money towards the later part of the year versus waiting till November, being against other ballot initiatives in November, and then having to wait an additional year for that funding to kick in.
Okay, so talking about then funding, so if this measure actually passes, what do you kind of estimate, or what do you see as additional cost to our residents?
Well, again, that's going to be anywhere from 6 cents to 8.9 cents per square foot per resident and/or commercial building up to 100,000 square feet. So if you look at a typical 1,000 square foot dwelling, that's about $89 a year.
Okay, let me ask one more. I'm going to go here and then right here. My question is this sunset at all, or is this just going to be a forever tax?
This is a forever, and then if it is brought to the people, it could be voted out by another ballot initiative in the future.
Okay, so it is a forever tax.
Yes, it
That's
is.
the only way if 10 years from now, we would have to garner the support from the community, either by petition or the city council or something, and then to get it back on the ballot? Is that my understanding?
Yes, so it is sunset, so it continues, and the only way to remove it would be another ballot initiative.
Oh, okay. Here and then here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's one thing that you might have to take a look at for the sake of whether you wanted to have it to pass or not, but by and large, March elections have a very low turnout, whereas the November ballots, the November elections have a greater turnout. Have you considered that in the process of what you're doing?
Yes, the department has a group that's been put together to look at all of these pros and cons, if you will, to when to go to the people and to the vote of the people. And that is still yet to be determined. Hopefully by next week, we'll have a better understanding whether we go to March and or November.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, in regards to, since it's no sunset on this, I got a two-parter. Who's going to be the overseer of that fund and that money sitting there?
So all the money that is generated from, let's say, the city of Gardena, if you opt in, stays within the city of Gardena. So that will be spent within the 2 fire stations that you have and the personnel that you have. And then annually, you will get a report, if you will, on the monies that has been raised. And then every 3 years, the auditor and controller and the fire department will meet with city and council members and the city manager to again, look at the overview of the monies that's been involved, where it's been spent, and where it needs to go moving forward.
All right, and Madam Mayor, that kind of addressed my second question in regards to the audit process and
Right.
how we can determine the funding stays within our city limits. So
Yes.
thank you for that.
So I have a question. So let's just say Gardena decides to opt in, but Carson doesn't, and maybe Hawthorne doesn't. How does that affect the service? I mean, because you're going to still take care of everybody. I mean, it's not going to be like less service to our neighboring cities, right? Or does that just mean as far as we get better equipment, they don't? I mean, how does that happen? Because you still will service everybody if the need is there, correct?
Correct. And you're all one big family of the fire department,
Right.
especially Los Angeles County. Hawthorne has opted in, by the way.
Okay.
Carson is part of the fire district. So
Okay.
back in 1976, they had that opportunity to come over. So they're automatically into this ballot measure, if you will.
Okay.
And those residents do vote. But the money goes throughout the organization, not just individual cities. So everybody gets the same.
Even if they opt out, still they'll,
Correct, but being a fee-for-service city, there's potentially at 6 cents a square foot, $2.5 million savings to the city
right?
for all of those costs and such. So if you weren't to opt in, then those costs would come back to the city and still go on as we do today
Okay.
with those MOUs. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it costs a lot more. Any more questions? No? Okay, thank you very much for answering our questions here. And let's see, so at this point here, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6420?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Medina. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, I guess we're opting in.
Council, thank you
much.
very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is item number 8B1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8B1 is for ordinance number 1813, amending Chapter 5.36 of the Gardena Municipal Code regarding film production permitting procedures. The city has contracted with Film LA, the official film office for the city and county of Los Angeles, for film processing. To provide uniformity with Film LA's film production processing procedures, the city should modify its film production ordinance to incorporate certain provisions from the model film ordinance Film LA employed in Los Angeles County. Staff recommends that the City Council introduce ordinance number 1813, amending Section 5.36 of the Gardena Municipal Code regarding film production permitting procedures. This ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, because its adoption is not an activity that has potential for direct physical change or reasonably foreseeable indirect physical change in the environment. There is no financial impact, and what's required is to introduce ordinance number 1813.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? If not, can I get an introduction of ordinance number 1813?
So moved.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, it was introduced by Councilmember Medina. Okay, next up is item number 8C1. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8C1 is urgency ordinance number 1812, adding chapter 14.17 to the Gardena Municipal Code to temporarily prohibit no-fault evictions through December 31st, 2019. Assembly Bill 1482, the Tenant Protections Act of 2019 prohibits evictions without just cause and prohibits owners of multifamily residential rental properties from increasing rent each year more than the 5% plus the percentage change in the cost of living, or CPI. And this will become effective January 1st, 2020. Since vacant units can initially be rented at market rates rather than be limited to the rental increase caps of AB 1482, several Gardena owners are attempting to evict some or all of their tenants prior to January 1st, 2020. So there's an example, there's two buildings within the city of Gardena with an aggregate number of units of 34 occupied units, and all tenants have received eviction notices and to vacate before the end of the year. Staff recommends City Council approve urgency ordinance number 1812 to temporarily prohibit no-fault evictions through December 31st, 2019. A temporary prohibition on no-fault evictions will protect a substantial number of Gardena residents from being displaced. There is no financial impact. What's required is adopt urgency ordinance number 1812. An urgency ordinance requires 4 affirmative votes for adoption.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like we have several speakers on this item right here. Madam City Clerk, besides this list here, are there any more additional speakers?
No, there are not.
Okay. So if you can come forward as I call your name. The first one is Amy Tenenbaum. The second one is Alex Aceves. And Eugenio Chavez. We'll start with those first three. And when we get to speaker number Eugenio Chavez, Ms. Santine, can you come forward? We'll just need a little assistance on that one. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Amy Tenenbaum, and I am a staff attorney on Public Counsel's Homelessness Prevention Team. My office has been working with low-income tenants in Gardena who are currently facing no-cause eviction notices, putting them at risk of homelessness. Many of these renters have lived in Gardena for years, paying their rent each month and providing no reason for their landlords to evict them. It is only now that the state legislature has passed AB 1482 implementing new renter protections set to take effect on January 1st, 2020, that landlords are scrambling to evict these tenants. My organization is personally aware of at least 2 buildings with a total of 32 units where every unit has received a no-cause 60-day notice to vacate. I urge you to pass this ordinance to provide protection and stability to Gardena renters. This ordinance solves a technical issue caused by the delay between passage of AB 1482 and its effective date. Similar ordinances have already been passed in the city of Los Angeles, unincorporated LA County, and other cities throughout the county. This ordinance will simply provide a time-limited protection until Gardena residents receive the benefit of the new state law. Nor would this change in law be cause for concern for landlords who wish to evict so-called problem tenants. Even under this ordinance and the new statewide law, landlords will be able to evict tenants who don't pay rent, cause nuisances, or otherwise violate their lease. The City of Los Angeles has had similar protections in place for years without landlords going out of business. Gardena is well within its rights to regulate certain types of transactions, including the landlord-tenant relationship with this sort of tenant protection. I ask for your help in protecting tenants facing eviction and potential homelessness through no fault of their own by passing this ordinance. Without these protections, they may have to leave the city of Gardena. We want them to continue to be a part of the community that is their home. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alex Aceves.
It's Alexis Aceves.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did I write Alex? Is it 3 minutes or 2 minutes?
3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm a Lenox resident. I do not reside in Gardena. I think it's important to also state that I am a Lenox School Board member. I'm here in solidarity with the tenants of 16935 South Vermont Avenue. We've been working with those folks because they are, as mentioned, part of the folks that received 60-day notices. So I'm here on my own behalf. I must state that I'm glad that y'all are having this conversation. As stated, we've been at the LA City Council advocating for these same protections. I've been going to the Inglewood City Council meetings. Inglewood just passed a rent ordinance with 3% rent cap and just cause evictions, 3% plus the CPI. I'm from Lenox, so the supervisors passed a 3% rent cap, annual rent cap, with just cause evictions as well. And the conversation in Inglewood was going on for a really long time before the ordinance was passed. So I'm glad to be here in Gardena, a place where my sister used to reside in. I'm glad that the conversation is being had in the whole South Bay, because as y'all know, they call it a housing crisis, but if there's anything I've learned from the LA Tenants Union is this is a tenants' rights crisis. And this is what the movement is about, increasing tenants' rights, and that's what we're doing. And as I said, the conversation has started here, but this is just the beginning. A moratorium on evictions without just cause. But then there's a moratorium on rent increases. Then there's the conversation about vacancy control. Then obviously there's the restrictions placed on city councils and municipalities due to state laws such as Costa-Hawkins or the Ellis Act. But nonetheless, I think that it is time, and it's been time for city councils like Inglewood, like Gardena, today Duarte and Downey and Alhambra are also voting on similar legislation. It's been time for protections for renters because, as we know, landowners, they've been represented by city governments for a long time. And I can say that y'all are to expect, and many governments across the South Bay, Los Angeles County, all of California, are going to continue to see tenants come forward and are going to continue to see tenants go and vote and make their interests, made known, because homelessness is the alternative. My family is facing homelessness at this point. So it's widespread, and I feel it being felt by all my loved ones, friends. Was that my beep?
That's your beep. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Eugenio Chavez. And Ms. Centine, if you could assist with him.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Eugenio Chávez y como han estado hablando acerca de los desalojos.
So his name is Eugenio Chavez and he's here to discuss the evictions, the upcoming evictions.
Tengo viviendo en la ciudad de Gardena 18 años y pues esto impacta mucho en la forma de nuestra vivienda porque las noticias llegaron de un día para otro y pues nos causa nervios de que nos saquen nada más así sin avisarnos.
So he's been living in the city of Gardena for about 18 years now, and he wants to make sure that everyone knows how this impacts their lives. The news came very sudden, and it causes them to be nervous.
Los edificios donde vivimos no tienen muy buenas condiciones de vivienda. desgraciadamente vendieron los departamentos a otra persona y nos mintieron que iban a revisar los departamentos como para repararlos, pero resultó que los vendieron, hicieron cambio de dueño.
So the conditions of the units are definitely not up to code. They were promised that the conditions would improve, but really the property was sold and then they were given the eviction notices.
Yo tengo mucho tiempo anteriormente comunicándome con los dueños anteriores, nunca me hicieron mucho caso y tengo muchas pruebas de que el departamento no está habitable. Con esta noticia, pues nos causó nerviosismo y mi esposa cayó en un momento de miedo, porque nos llegan a estar tocando a veces la puerta para que hagamos cosas de que cuándo nos vamos a mover, en qué tiempo.
So he states that he has record of the conditions of the property not being housable or livable. He had communicated that with the previous owner. Now that the new property owner has purchased the property, his wife and him have been suffering from basically being nervous and scared to open the door because of them being hounded to move out.
Y pues lo que venimos aquí es a expresar que necesitamos la ayuda de la ley que pasó ahorita en Los Ángeles, que sea también aprobada aquí en Gardena.
So they would like to express their need for assistance to pass the law that was recently passed in the city of LA in order to help them.
Gracias.
Thank you. Next, we have Ernesto Velasquez. Okay, stay there. Yeah, please.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Ernesto Velázquez y vengo por la misma causa. Simplemente estamos en una situación pues, uno como caballero aguantas un poco, pero ¿cómo le explicas a tus hijos, a tu esposa? Nos tenemos que ir ya.
So he's here for the same cause. They're facing the same situation. This is a different transition, but basically, as a gentleman, he understands the situation, but how does he express this to his family, his kids?
Hace unos 7, 8 años regresé a Gardena porque yo estaba viviendo en Gardena por 10 años. Después agarré una casa y tuvimos problemas con esa casa y total regresé a Gardena otra vez. Entonces mis hijos vieron una situación donde sacaron a una familia igual, pues de repente la policía llegó, los del sheriff, no sé, y lo sacaron. Con esa experiencia que pasamos, mis hijas no quieren salir ni a la tienda.
So about 7 to 8 years ago, he came back from Gardena. Previously, he had lived in Gardena for about 10 years. He was living in a home or had a home, lost the home for some other circumstances. The experience of eviction has been something that his kids have seen by the sheriffs coming to evict someone else. And now that his kids are basically scared to even leave the house because they don't want to experience that same process.
Ahora como he hablado con mi esposa y mis vecinos igual, ¿y qué hacemos? ¿Alguien nos puede ayudar o no sabemos qué hacer realmente?
He's talked to his wife, neighbors, and basically is wondering what anyone can do to help.
El nuevo dueño que agarró los apartamentos están construyendo los que ya se desocuparon, pero nosotros estamos ahí.
The new owners are already doing construction on the new units. I'm sorry, on the recently vacated units.
Están tapando, digamos, que todas las ventanas, las puertas, y el dueño me habló personalmente, no sé si es el dueño o su representante. Oye, ¿cuándo te vas a salir? ¿O esperas a que te laquemos la puerta, que te cambiemos los lags de la puerta?
So, as you mentioned, they're already doing construction to the other vacant apartments by changing doors, covering windows. The representative or the owner, the new representative or owner is basically telling them, what are you waiting for to leave? Do we have to change the locks on you?
yo creo, no me parece justo simplemente porque a uno les ha cumplido siempre con la renta.
It doesn't seem fair since they've always paid the rent on time.
Entonces, ¿cuál es el motivo?
What is the motive?
O por lo menos que nos hablen de esa forma.
At least that they should not be speaking to them in that way.
Right.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Maria Padron de Sanchez. Yes, please. Maria Padron?
She left.
She left? Okay. Next, we have Jonathan Jagger?
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Yeager, and I'm a staff attorney with the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. The Legal Aid Foundation is a nonprofit law firm that represents the poorest and most vulnerable residents of LA County, including many right here in Gardena. I want to thank this council for moving on this critically important issue and share the impact that this would have on our clients. Sacramento's delayed implementation of the Tenant Protection Act has created a loophole that some landlords here in Gardena are exploiting by displacing tenants before the end of the year. This urgency ordinance, if adopted, would mean that these tenants will be able to stay in their homes through the holidays and be afforded the same state law protections that everyone else will come January 1st. So I just wanted to thank you.
Okay, thank you. And last speaker is Jacob Shepard.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and everyone who could be here. My name is Jacob Shepard. I am not a resident of the city of Gardena. I do reside in the city of LA. I am here at the request of some of my friends who are tenants in the city of Gardena, and I'm here to show my support. I'm a volunteer and a community organizer with the Los Angeles Tenants Union, and I personally was homeless when I arrived in this city. I faced homelessness, I faced eviction down before, and I've been there, so I have a deep commitment to organizing and building this tenants movement and that we are a part of, and organizing outside of the city of LA as well. So let me say this. What we are witnessing here, the testimony you've just heard today, is horrible. It is horrendous. These are acts of criminality that are being enacted upon our friends and neighbors here. And the problem is, it is criminality that is within the law. So the state failed to act fully on the behalf of tenants when they passed AB 1482, the Tenant Protection Bill. They left this window open, and sharks are doing what sharks do when they smell blood in the water, and they're seizing upon it now. So these landlords are acting in criminality against humanity here. So what we're seeing is a notorious lawyer by the name of Dennis Block, a man who brags that he's evicted and put more people out of their homes than anyone on the face of the planet, has encouraged these landlords, the owners of these properties in LA City and also in the surrounding cities in LA County, to move and evict these tenants in these previously non-rent controlled properties, to get them out before that window closes and before the first of the year, where they will not be able to do so afterwards. So LA City passed an ordinance recently. I was present for that. And I just want to be clear about the wording here. In LA City, there was a push to clarify that as well. And the ordinance that was passed in LA City declared that it would cover everyone who is currently still residing in their homes. And this is an important point of contention because some of these notices, and we don't even know how many people have been served them. Our tenants here, excuse me, thank you.
Just go ahead and wrap it up real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there are folks who have been served notices prior to the passage of the bill, and we want to make sure that everyone is covered here. So the LA City ordinance covered everyone who was currently still in possession of their home. I just want to make sure. I wasn't able to read the text of this ordinance. I couldn't find it, but I hope that it similarly covers everyone who is still in possession of their unit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, you have a question? Okay, let's first question, Councilmember Medina.
Well, it's not a question, and it's a statement, basically. The city of Gardena, for those of you who don't know, has a rent mediation board. Para ustedes que no saben, la ciudad de Gardena tiene directoras que se llaman rent mediation. And this board will stop any raises of rent for more than 5% and or evictions as well. So you need to contact our city manager or our city clerk and ask if you can apply for the rent mediation and speak to the rent mediation board with regards to them either raising your rent more than 5% within 1 year or even unfair evictions. But I strongly urge you to seek some support from the city of Gardena because the city of LA does not have rent mediation. They have rent control. So there's a big difference between having someone mediate between you and the landlord as opposed to you having to face the landlord by yourself. Les estoy dando una urgencia que pidan ayuda en parte de la ciudad para the Rent Mediation Board para que así pueden alegar para atrás y para adelante con gente de la ciudad que les puede apoyar en parte de que no les suban la renta más de 5% cada año. Y la ciudad de Los Ángeles no tiene eso. So, por favor, llame al manejador de la ciudad o city clerk, pero contacta a alguien que son oficiales en la ciudad de Gardena para apoyarlos en parte de subir la renta más de 5%. So I'm a strong supporter of renters, and I've been a renter myself in the past. And it's an ugly feeling when you're at the mercy of another human being for your livelihood and having to live at peace with a roof over your head. So please take advantage of the fact that the city of Gardena has the rent mediation, and we'll support all the renters we can while we can. Thank you.
Okay, I need to make a quick point of reference here. So these people have already submitted to the Rent Mediation Board, but if I could have our city attorney, if you could chime in here, and before you do, can I ask Ms. Santini if you can come forward just and translate as he's speaking for those people who don't speak English, if you could just do that for us as well. Peter, if you could just kind of clarify a little bit better here, because these people have already brought cases forward.
They have?
Yes, they have already.
Well, we became aware of this problem through rent increases that qualified for rent mediation. However, the rent mediation does not protect those tenants who receive eviction notices. And we have, I believe, at least over 60 tenants who have received eviction notices. Some of them had applied for mediation.
Hold on one
Some
second
of
here.
them-
Hold on. Stephanie can only translate so much at a time. Give her 1 sec. Go ahead and start.
Let's see. La información que está dando está explicando el proceso de rent mediation. I'm not sure how you would say that in Spanish, but y lo que están tratando de explicar es que ustedes ya aplicaron por ese programa. El problema es que ese programa no protege contra esta situación.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
How do you remember where you were?
I'm sorry. I've just done this before where someone's had to translate, so you have to give little short sentences.
Keep it short.
At six,
Yeah, there was
60
something
residents,
like
okay.
60 residents who had received eviction notices, and our rent mediation doesn't provide protection unless that's in retaliation for requesting mediation.
Okay, stop there.
Lo que están explicando es que sobre 60 personas han ya aplicado por este programa, pero la protección no sirve si no está, si no es el proceso de, how do you say retaliation?
Un intento crimen porque el intento no es de sacarlos de la casa por ninguna razón.
Okay, let her
No en
finish. I know.
Gracias. Entonces, como ustedes no hay causa para, ustedes no reclamaron algo y por eso lo están desalojando. Entonces, no hay protección por eso.
Anything else to add?
Yes, in many cases, the eviction notices preceded the rent increases,
Okay.
and thus it was questionable whether rent mediation retaliation provisions would apply.
En muchos de los casos, la información o el aviso de desalojo se había dado antes y entonces no había forma de I can't say retaliation.
In other cases, there were just eviction notices or termination notices without any rent increases. And there, the mediation ordinance provided no protection.
Bueno, ha dicho casi lo mismo, que sin el aviso vino antes de ustedes pidiendo ayuda de la ciudad, entonces eso no es retaliation o no es...
Go ahead and finish, and then we'll answer the questions.
no es una forma de... No le están haciendo algo a ustedes por la razón que pidieron ayuda. Entonces no hay protección.
We were aware of about 50 evictions that, and there's probably many more going on that we were not aware of, and we determined the need for this. The need for this ordinance was necessary in order to prevent a bunch of people becoming homeless at Christmas.
Okay. Go ahead.
Entonces, porque 50 aplicaciones se habían recibido y sabemos de más situaciones como estas, estamos trayendo esta información al alcalde para que hagan una decisión para ayudarlos, especialmente en esta época de Navidad.
Is that it? Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions up here? Councilmember Tanaka?
Thanks. I have a quick comment. So I really feel for those being evicted, but what I'm hearing, and it sounds like from the city attorney, that the evictions are being made based upon selling property and not because they have cause to evict them. They're evicting them based upon selling the property and maybe upgrading the property. Well, greed's there, but this protection that we're going to vote on tonight basically says that you cannot throw people out without cause. So I'm all for that, but I think the ones that are here that are being put out on the street, it sounds like it's a terrible thing that's being done to them. So, and I really feel bad, but the fact is I think they're using the back door to say, here's an eviction notice. So that's all I got to say.
Okay.
You want me to translate that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I just wanted legally to residents to know that. Any more questions, comments up here? Okay, the only thing I'd like to say just before, just to the residents who are here, we all kind of see where this is unfair here, and we want to do what we can to help protect you as well, because as mentioned, this is of no fault to you, and it's just not fair. So with that, I'm going to move forward and ask that we adopt urgency ordinance number 1812. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, I made the first, and Councilmember Medina made the second. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Serta,
Yes.
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Before I vote, I wanted to make sure that we print some more rent mediation books so folks can get those books and we can get those out to the community.
Okay.
But
so-
yes,
And I'm going to answer your question in a second. Go ahead.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Before my yes, I hope the attorneys that are helping these people can help them. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the urgency ordinance for item number 1812 has been passed. Mr. City Manager, do you know the procedure as far as the way remediation booklets are handed out, or do you want me to explain it? Generally, when we hand out the remediation booklets, it's when the business owner pays their license. So at that time, they're made aware that that you're supposed to give your booklets out to all the tenants at the time when they rent. So we do have extra that we keep in the office, but we try to, I believe, put it out on our website that it's available to any tenant who would like to come in and get it versus us just sending that mass booklet out there as well. But I believe it's up to us as council members as well, too, to get the word out that we do have a remediation board and a process and a booklet that's free to them, so.
And Madam Mayor, thank you for explaining that process for
Not a
those that are
problem.
playing along at home.
Okay. Okay, all right, moving on, next item is item number 8C2. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, Agenda Item 8C2 are for items A, B, and C. Item A is resolution number 6414, calling for the holding of a general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020, for the election of certain officers as required by the provisions of the laws of the State of California relating to general law cities. Item B, resolution number 6415, is adopting regulations for candidates for elective office pertaining to candidate statements submitted to the voters at an election to be held on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. And item C is resolution number 6416, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles to consolidate a general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020, with a statewide primary election to be held on the date pursuant to 10403 of the Elections Code. The resolutions submitted are required for the city's March 3rd, 2020 general municipal elections. The city is also adopting regulations for candidate statements submitted to the voters at an election to be held on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. In order to meet all deadlines for this election, the resolution should be acted upon before December 6th, 2019. Financial impact is the total election cost estimate is $170,000. Final cost to be determined. Funding source is the general fund, and what's required is adopt resolutions number 6414, 6415, and 6416 relating to the general municipal elections to be held on March 3rd, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Tanaka.
Quick question. You said there's $170,000 with a final cost to be determined. Does that mean that we're being charged for voting machines?
So the 170 is the estimated final cost, including any supplies provided by the LA County.
Any other questions? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, in speaking to Dean Logan of the Registrar's Office, and because our polling locations are going to change this year, the discussion was centered around some of our polling locations that we know of don't meet a lot of their requirements in regards to infrastructure, ADA compliance, and all that stuff. So if this is going to be something we do moving forward as far as these polling locations, is it possible we can actually have a conversation with the county to see what exactly are the requirements for a polling location so we can go back to possibly the locations that we're all used to?
Certainly, Councilman, we can have that conversation, but I'd like to defer to Becky Romero if you know of any guidelines that we've received so far from the county.
Actually, what's happened is the county has sent out their people to assess our properties or the polling or the vote centers that are potentially being looked at, and have also sent out AT&T to make sure there's Wi-Fi in the buildings. So those were the number 1 and 2 requirements. So as of right now, we have 3 vote centers that are have been approved. Nakaoka being one as a medium size. Rush Gym is a large. So and Raleigh Park is also a large. So that means there will be 50 ballot marking devices in the large and probably about 20 to 25 in the mediums. So they have been assessed. Our potential parks have been assessed, and these are the 3 that they have approved so far.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tanaka?
So along with that question, though, attending the classes for voting, we don't have to actually vote in Gardena, though. There, you can go to any voting place anywhere and vote. So if it's closer to work, you could actually go somewhere close to work, right? So that's, okay.
Any more questions, comments? I have one question. I don't know if you have this information in front of you, but I thought it costs us less money when we consolidate with the county, because it seems like this is a little bit more, but I don't know. Was it, isn't? It is more.
It's definitely more. And a
Okay.
lot of, when we were at the City Clerk Summit, a lot of cities are also bringing this to the county's attention.
Okay.
That there's 3 times higher than
Than
what
we
they've
had
paid in the
before?
past.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the new equipment that's come in.
Okay.
So that's raising the cost.
Okay.
Mayor Serta, also new equipment and all of the workers for LA County, we have to pay for fully burdened costs, as opposed to we were just to do it ourselves here, it would be just a regular staff time. So fully burdened cost is a lot more expensive.
Okay. Okay. Are there any more questions, comments? No? If not, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6414, 6415, and 6416?
So moved.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 8F1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8F1 is resolution number 6421, approval of amendment 1 to local agreement number CCTR-9077 with the California Department of Education for fiscal year 1920. The Gardena Child Care Program, or GFCC, provides quality educational subsidized child care in licensed facility child care homes in Gardena and bordering cities. Services are provided to low-income families whose parents are employed in school, training, seeking employment, or are incapacitated and require assistance. Staff recommends that the City Council approve Amendment 1 to Local Agreement CCTR-9077 and adopt Resolution Number 6421, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute agreement with the California Department of Education, which has been approved as to form by the city attorney. The amendment provides additional funding for GFCC and will increase the current contract by $356,675 from $2.4 million to $2.7 million. This reflects an increase in payment of the standard reimbursement rate per child daycare from $47.98 to $49.54. The additional revenue of $356,675 from the Department of Education for the Family Child Care Program is the financial impact. There is no cost to the general fund. What's required is adopt resolution number 6421.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6421?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 9A1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 9A1 is resolution number 6422, approving a joint exercise of powers agreement creating the California Cities Gaming Authority, or CCGA. The City of Gardena and the City of Inglewood recently withdrew from the California Cities for the Self-Reliance Joint Powers Authority because that entity has become dysfunctional. Both cities are interested in creating an agency to pursue the intended goals of the Self-Reliance JPA, which is promoting and protecting the operation of card casinos in their respective jurisdictions. The Inglewood City Council has already approved the attached agreement, and once it is approved by the Gardena City Council, the two cities will recruit other members statewide to erect a defensive wall against litigation, legislation, and administrative actions that currently threaten local revenues derived from card club operations. The agreement calls for each member agency to contribute $30,000 annually for the operational expenses, and this amount may not increase without subsequent consent from the Gardena City Council. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 6422, approving a joint exercise of powers agreement and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. Following that action, one City Council member should be appointed as director to the CCGA board, and a second City Council member should be appointed as an alternate. These actions should be recorded as minute resolutions. Financial impact is $30,000 annually. What's required is adopt Resolution Number 6422 and appoint a member of the City Council to the Board of Directors.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Let's start here with Councilmember Tanaka and then go to Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dysfunctional is putting it lightly. I was the alternate to that organization. This is not just a whimsical little thing that we are trying to start. This is something that is actually very important, especially to us having card clubs. It's important because of the revenue and the loss of jobs that it could create not having this joint powers. We need to have this, and I think pulling away from the original one, starting a new one with guidelines and good leadership will actually help us in the long run. As stated by Senator Bradford, we are definitely trying to make sure that what we do is the right thing and that we get the right results. So I'm going to tell you that this is an important vote. This is an important organization, and $30,000 is actually nothing compared to what we could lose. And the other thing is that I would highly recommend that our mayor continue to be the representative, because she was actually the chairperson of that last board, and that's why we're not there. So that's all I have to say.
Go ahead, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to dovetail on that, to make sure that there's no future potentials for conflict or nepotism or anything, are the guidelines being drafted now, or we're waiting to get other member cities, or we're just Inglewood and Gardena draft those guidelines right now?
So to start it off, Inglewood and Gardena began drafting those guidelines. If approved tonight, tomorrow morning will be our first meeting at 8 a.m., and we will go ahead with the guidelines as far as the executor's contract, as far as no nepotism, what we expect the director to do, what we expect the general counsel as well.
Thank you.
Any other, Councilmember Medina, sorry. It's late.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For those of you who might be aware or might not be aware, this is the second time that we've opted out of the JPA. I was the original member back when I had hair. The whole thing got started by the card club owners. They originally provided all the financing. They're the ones who actually created the JPA. And then as time went on, like was mentioned earlier, chaos and all kinds of stuff started to a point where the cities were being charged. And I'm glad that we're moving forward so the cities will actually really be in charge, as opposed to going back and forth with the club owners and then having the chaos that you had to deal with the last time. So I'm really happy that this is finally getting approved the proper way, and you're putting dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, because that was not the case in the past when the club owners originally started this about 10, 15 years ago. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
So one last thing is
Go ahead.
that this is not just local gaming that's close to us. The mayor has a vision, and I hope I'm not speaking out of line here, but the mayor has a vision that there are card clubs all up and down the state of California, whether they're 1 or 2 tables, whether they're 20 tables, or 40 or 50 tables. We're going to get everybody from the state of California that has gaming to try and join this JPA. And if we can do that, we're a lot stronger than just a few card clubs within the Southern California, Orange County area. So I applaud what the mayor is trying to do with Inglewood, and I'm hoping that other cities will jump on and join us.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? Just the one comment I have to make, Councilmember Tanaka is correct. in stating that we're going to be able to reach out to more clubs. Initially, the way the old JPA was, it was only for the county of LA, and it was only like 7 cities that were participating in this. Of those 7 cities, 6 cities had a club. Ours had 2. We had 1 city that potentially was going to get a club, so that's why they were a member. But in leaving the JPA, I thank the council for trusting me when I say it was getting to be very dysfunctional, and for us to leave. It's going to be better for us moving forward to the new JPA with way better guidelines to make sure that we don't run into some of the same problems we had with the previous one. And like Councilmember Tanaka said, there are several more clubs. I believe it's something like, I don't want to quote the number because I could be wrong. There are a lot more clubs that we are able to open up to, small and medium-sized clubs that would benefit from the JPA. So as was mentioned, $30,000 is not a lot to be a member of annually. So this is definitely, I believe, going to be a good move for us. And as soon as we approve this, if approved tonight, we will begin working, as I mentioned earlier, as soon as 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Councilmember Henderson.
Madam Mayor, thank you for that clarification as well. Also, for the member cities of the former JPA, if they now decide to elect to join this new JPA, is there going to be a tougher vetting process in regards to how conduct should be, protocol and decorum, and what we're trying to achieve and different things like that?
Let me first, before I forget this, Councilmember Medina said it's card clubs. I think I said card rooms, card clubs. Some of these cities here will probably not be invited to join the current JPA, but we are sending invitations out to cities, and there will be some guidelines there as far as what will be acceptable, and if their behavior is not becoming of the JPA, then they can be asked to leave. That member and or possibly even that city can be asked to leave just because of their actions.
Thank you.
Call it a code of conduct.
It will be a code of conduct in there as well. So, any other questions, comments? No? If not, can we need to do 2 things, actually 3 things. Number 1, we need to make a motion if we decide to do this. The second, we'll need to appoint the delegate, I believe, as well. Help me if I'm not correct. Also an alternate as well, too, right? So that's the third?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the agreement to the CCGA, as well as appoint a member of the City Council to the Board of Directors and an alternate?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Medina. Now, before we call the roll, do they need to also state who that delegate is, or is that done separately before we vote? It's done separately. Okay, so right now, we're just talking about the motion here. Madam City Clerk, the motion was made by Councilmember Tanaka and second by Councilmember Medina. Will you call the roll?
Councilmember Tanaka. Yes. Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay. Now, in appointing the person, do we take a vote again, or we do? Okay. So is there a nomination for person to be the board member at this time?
I move we nominate Mayor Tasha Serta as board member and Councilman Rodney Tanaka as alternate.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there's been a motion made to appoint myself, Tasha Serta, as the board member, and Councilmember Tanaka as the alternate. I'm sorry, the motion was made by Councilmember Henderson and second by Councilmember Medina. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka. Yes. Mayor Serta.
Yes, okay, thank you. Next up is council directives. Does any member of the council have any directives at this late hour? Okay, Councilmember Henderson.
I was wondering if we could get a study done by staff to see what it would take for us to recognize our veterans on like light poles or something like that of
Oh, yeah.
past or something like that. If we can get active, past, yeah, local active, something like that.
You know what, I'll second that, but I believe there has been something done on that before, but can we re-examine that again?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, yes, we will look into possibly forming the Hometown Heroes type of recognition to our veterans and currently deployed members of our military.
Okay, any other directors? If not, let's move on to the city manager's remarks regarding the previous directors.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, I have prepared and submitted a number of different reports and memos in your packets. The first one being the traffic safety study on the proposed new development on 178 and Normandy. Thank you, Chief Safal and your staff for helping me completing that. Housing element, second memo is the housing element analysis. Third one is the use of e-cigarettes in our city buses. The fourth one is the report on graffiti and construction inquiry on 15601 Western Avenue. The fifth memo is the Restaurant Week report. Basically, we took in about $5,050 during that time. We spent about $497. Total profit is about $4,552. All proceeds went back to the City of Gardena Food Pantry. So we have an annual toy drive, which is now until December 10th, 2019. You can place your support by donating through the Helping Hands program. Any new unwrapped toys for all ages, the toys can be dropped off at City Hall, Human Services building, which is in 1651 West 162nd, and at the Nakaoka Community Center. Masfukai Community Yard Sale is Saturday, November 16th at 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can drop by our huge winter sale at Masfukai at 15800 South Brighton Avenue. Lastly, we have prepared 2 short videos to commemorate our grand opening at the mini futsal pitch at Bell Park, and also the 50th annual Veterans Day service. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That ends my report.
Okay, those graphics were great. We should hire that guy. He already works for us, I know. Okay, we're going to begin tonight with council remarks. First up is Councilmember Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because it's late, it'll be very short. Attended the Bell Park futsal presentation. That was a great thing for our community. Everybody that was there said that this is just a wonderful thing for our youth. Attended Human Services Open House. Thank you. It was a great tour. I think there's some things that need to be fixed there. It was a good tour. Attended the Eddie Awards. I'm very proud of our city and that we were there to represent. We didn't win, but just the fact that we were there as a finalist, I was very proud of our accomplishments. And next year, or whenever they have the next one, I'm sure that we'll win because we're pretty progressive right now. So thank you for the city doing that. Veterans Day was a great event. Staff, thanks for your, and the police department, thank you very much, Chief. That was a great event because it was our 50th. It was very special, and everybody noticed that it was special. And I went to Restaurant Week. I know that was a while ago, but I did 4. I don't think I could have done any more. But that was a fun week. So, and those that can attend on Friday, Officer Hirai's one-year memorial will be out in front of the station. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be quick. First of all, I'd like to say I thoroughly enjoyed Restaurant Week. So that's always good and everything. So I did my best to recycle my dollars in Gardena. And I was able to spend some money on some suspenders and a belt as well. So that was good. Since last time we were together, we were at the LA Eddie Awards. It was an honor, although we did not win as a city, as business-friendly city. It still was an honor to be part of that rarefied air. We were 1 of 5 out of 88. So it was a great acknowledgement to be 1 of 5 out of 88. Although I still have some concerns about the city that won, because I just can't believe their stats. But okay, I'll leave that alone. I also attended the CD43 voting system event that the Congresswoman had over at El Camino College, and that was enlightening as well. I also attended the Veterans Day event and everything. That was a great event for our 50th. It was great to see everybody out, so that was a good thing, seeing our community out. I also participated on behalf of the City of Gardena to the ribbon cutting at El Camino College for their Student Services building. So that was great. So I sent regards on behalf of our council and our city leadership. And it was extra special for me because the president over there is actually my classmate. And so that's why we were able, so it was really something special to represent our city as her being the college president, me being a council person and everything. So it was really good. So she says, thank you for all the support that we give her as a body, and hopefully we can continue that. Also had some community visits, and I want to say happy birthday to my wife, Nichelle Henderson, as well as my daughter, Markeisha Henderson. I had to celebrate their birthdays this weekend, and so my pockets are definitely depleted at this point. So, Madam Mayor, so ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to elaborate on everything that we're very fortunate that every single member of the council has attended all the Eddie Awards, the Bell Park Soccer, the Veterans Day Awards, and we work together as far as Restaurant Week is concerned. And so I won't belabor that, but I did have to deliver some cakes for the convalescent homes that Waste Resources supplies the money for, and I'm just a delivery boy as far as the convalescent homes are concerned, but people really do enjoy receiving cakes at the end of the month for their birthday. I also attended the West Basin Water Harvest, where this husband and wife that were on the verge of losing their home won a washer and dryer, which they were really, they were both crying. They were so excited that they won a washer and dryer. I also attended the Inglewood SoFi Stadium, which is enormous. It's they've spent 298 acres to build the SoFi Stadium, and according to the guy there, Mayor Butts, he said you can fit Disneyland inside the parking lot. So That ends my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for myself, since the last council meeting, I had the opportunity to present a proclamation to the president of the California Women's NAACP, and that was very special for me to have that opportunity to do that on this past month here. Also, since last council meeting, I was a judge at the McDonald's on Redondo Beach Boulevard and Normandy. They had a really interesting contest, and bear with me as I explain this. They mentioned that they've noticed that millennials don't go to McDonald's that much. Our seniors go there and our small kids go, but not the millennials. So the contest was for them to create a meal out of the existing ingredients. They had 15 minutes to think of something, 10 minutes to build it, and then I had the opportunity to eat it. And it was a lot of fun. There were 4 different groups there. And this was to, again, encourage millennials to come to McDonald's to watch the process of creating these items, and possibly if your team's dessert was, or item was chosen, it was like a breakfast meal as well as like a dessert item, then possibly it could end up on the menu. All of these millennials had their own social media teams there. They had cameras, they had lights, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before, but they had thousands of followers. So we got a lot of publicity at the Redondo Beach, Redondo and Normandy McDonald's. So that was a lot of fun in participating. Also, since the last council meeting, I received an Outstanding Achievement Award from the New Frontier Democratic Club. I also attended with Councilmember Henderson the grand opening of Western Dental, that's right next to Blink Fitness on Redondo Beach in Normandy. Also that same day, I attended the drug take-back that was right here at our police station. And also, I attended the retirement party for Chief King, and again, I would just like to thank him for his years of service to the city of Gardena. And on Halloween, I actually participated with the employees with G-Trans costume party. I'd like to thank everybody else who decided to embarrass themselves like I did and wear a costume. But it was a lot of fun. So thank you guys again for that. Also, the next day, I attended the South Bay Association of Realtors as their keynote speaker, and I want to thank their president, Ms. Mina Semenza, for giving me the opportunity to let the realtors of the South Bay know about all the great things that Gardena is doing, and to please continue selling more homes and getting more residents to come to our community. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you.
On the next day, I attended Perchie Elementary School. They had a cleanup day, and what was really interesting about that is that they participated in the city of Gardena's cleanup day, and that's what spawned them to come up with the idea of having their school cleanup day. And I thought this was really great, the fact that we were able to encourage them to do this. They had parents donating plants. They were cleaning up the school, cleaning out weeds. And we just hope that more organizations do the same thing with that. So thank you again to Perchie for participating in ours and just taking this task on yourself. I also attended an event called Pipes and Drums with a couple of our police officers, an event that showcased the gentlemen who do the pipes and drums at the various ceremonies. I also attended the ribbon cutting for the new futsal court, and I'm calling it the futsal, and I don't want to make that mistake and keep calling it foosball, but it's in my head. And I just want to thank the celebrity Alex Morgan for coming out. We got a lot of great publicity in the media for that, so that was a great thing. I also attended the swearing-in ceremony for the new chief of police of LAX, Mr. Cecil Ramble. And that was good. And also the 2019 Eddie Awards. And I just want to take this time to thank everybody involved with that. There's so many people in our community that helped just get us to that point. So I know we thank the economic development team, the city council, our city managers, but that award is just like a compilation of everything that Gardena stands about. So I'm just here to tell everybody thank you for all that you do to make Gardena a better place. We did make the finalists. We did not win, but that's okay, because I hear residents all the time talk about how great Gardena looks. They love the way the new development's going. They love the service that we have in our city. So in my mind, we're still winners, and I still think we should just promote the fact that we were finalists, because that's a big deal. There are 88 cities in the county, and in our particular category, there were, I believe it was 6 cities, and for us to be nominated in that, I think that's pretty big. So again, thank you guys all for what you do, and especially our economic development manager, Spencer De La Cruz. He put a great video together of just all the great things that are going on in Gardena in a 1-minute video. And I mean, if it were up to me, I would put that on cable just to get more people to come to Gardena, because just the 1-minute video made it like it was just fun, just even shopping in Gardena. There were pictures of a guy dancing in the grocery store, like he just loved buying in Gardena. So I just think that's just something contagious, and we should keep it going. Also on this past Saturday, I attended the funeral services of Mr. Gerald Barnes, who was a longtime resident of Gardena. And one thing that I learned about him that we didn't get a chance to mention in the adjournment at the last meeting was that he was a volunteer police officer for the city of Gardena, which I didn't know, along with also the sheriff's department. So he lived here for a long time, and I was happy that I was able to be at his service and represent the city of Gardena. And then lastly, I attended the 50th Annual Veterans Day ceremonies, and I would just like to thank the entire staff for doing an amazing job. Every part of that ceremony was awesome. So to the committee, you guys definitely took it up to the next level. Thank you for doing that. Seeing the Girl Scouts there, all the different groups that participate in that, it made it so special. So for this being our 50th anniversary, I take my hat off to you guys. You guys did an amazing job. You've raised the bar, so I expect even better for the 51st year. But thank you again. That was it was really nice and special. So with that, that ends my report. I'm going to move on to announcements. We heard those that were previously mentioned by our city manager. 2 more. We have, this is a healthy resource fair and turkey giveaway that's being put on by State Senator Stephen Bradford. And this is also partnered with the Angels for Sight. And this is going to be Tuesday, November 26th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30. And it's going to be at the Watts Labor Community Action Center, which is located at 10950 South Central Avenue in Los Angeles. If you'd like more information, you can call 412-6120. So again, that's on November the 26th. Also, I'd like to invite everyone out to the service that we're going to have on this coming Friday, where we'll be honoring the life of one of our fallen officers, Officer Toshio Harai. It'll be this coming Friday, November the 15th, at 10 a.m. on the Civic Center lawn. So with those announcements, I'm going to move on to our adjournments. Tonight, we're going to adjourn in memory of the Honorable Paul Takeo Banai, who was 99 years of age and a longtime beloved resident of Gardena. He served as a City of Gardena council member from 1972 until mid-1973, when he was elected to the California State Legislature, where he served 4 terms as the first Japanese American elected to the State Assembly. He received Gardena City Council Military Veterans Recognition on February 13, 2018. Mr. Banai was an extremely active community and civic volunteer for many, many years. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Cade Kurita, who was 20 years old, a resident of Gardena and recent cadet in training with the 1st Regiment at the U.S. Military Academy in West Point, New York. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Albert Rene Partita, who was 44 years old, the beloved son of customer service clerk Lydia Partita with the City of Gardena City Clerk's Office. So at this time, the City of Gardena will adjourn to our next regular City Council meeting, which will be at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 26, 2019. We are adjourned.